Hi everyone, this is your boy Russ over at Midlife Comics coming at you with my Spider-Man Homecoming review. I won't do a separate general review and then a spoilers review. I'll do them both together here. I will mark when I will be getting into the spoilers, so don't worry about that. Um, well, first of all, my general impressions with the movie. Excellent. All I wanted going into it, and you can see here in my preview video before I went and saw it, all I wanted was a solid MCU movie. I got that and then some. I got a very different and a very unique MCU movie, while still being solid, still being consistent to the rest of those movies. Very much so. More of a side story as well, which is a nice diversion too. When you see everything trying to like tie so hard together and bridge, this one does as well, but it kind of like takes like an alternate, an alternate route. It's kind of running parallel to some of the movies and some of the events, while also having an effect on them, while still being street level, which was really cool. This movie was able to do several things. Um, it very effectively made itself a high school movie when relevant. It very effective made itself an action movie. It very effectively made itself a comedy, and it very effectively, very effectively made itself a Spider-Man movie. Sentimentally, would I say this is the best one? You know what? Honestly, this is tough because as much as the first one blew me away back in 2002, and as much as the second one just cemented itself as, if not sentimentally, my favorite comic book movie, maybe the best comic book movie, at least as far as the feels go as well, just the whole overall tone of that movie, Spider Man 2. So I wasn't going in expecting this to be any better, but you know what? This movie is as good as those movies for different reasons. But it's as good as those movies. It may be a little bit better. It may not be as good as those movies. Who's to say? I've seen the first two Spider-Man movies maybe about 10 times each, and I've only seen Homecoming this one time. But to see him in the MCU, to see it taken so seriously, not to say that the first two weren't, but you know that was a different time back then. That was pre 2008, pre Iron Man. Um, to see it taken so seriously, to see it so well cast, everyone did a fantastic job in this movie. Even the supporting characters were awesome. You had Hannibal Buress as the gym teacher, and he had a couple lines that were just gems. He had a couple lines, and they were all gems. Just a little extra creativity that was put into it with Michelle, like Zendaya's character, Liz, um, the Vulture, played by Michael Keaton, just destroyed it. The Shocker was awesome. The whole premise of the whole thing, how it all wraps up with the other movies, which was another thing. If you watch my preview video, there were some things in there where it's like they are kind of tying the events that have happened in this movie like really heavily to the wider MCU, to other ventures of the MCU, without getting into any kind of spoiler territory. Um, just the whole movie overall, the music, the humor, the act, all of it was just top notch. Good job, Sony, taking a back seat and letting the people that know what they're doing drive. I hope this teaches you a little lesson. Like maybe you'll invite Marvel in to hand you some notes for the Venom movie. Maybe you'll invite, if you talk to Marvel about these other movies, you're still gonna, as part of the deal, you're still gonna make the money off these movies. Just ask them for their opinion and be like, hey, how can we subtly still tie these to Spider-Man, which will still tie to the MCU without screwing it up? Like, can you just give us some notes on that? That's all you need for those movies, Sony, and just okay. Anyway, but I get back to what I was saying. Overall, I really enjoyed this movie. I don't really want to give it a score right now because maybe I'm being too hype about it. Maybe because maybe I just saw it. Uh, but a strong movie. I probably wouldn't put it in my top five of the MCU so far, but it's definitely top three Spider-Man movies. Maybe number one, maybe number three. I don't know. It's hard to say. It's hard to say at this juncture. I just watched it. Uh, just overall great. Right now, tentative score, I give it. It's tough to say. If Avengers was a 10 out of 10, and if Civil War was like a 9 or a 9.5, I'd have to give this movie like an 8.75. An 8.5. If Marvel hadn't killed my love of Spider-Man the way it always was my whole life with the Clone War saga in the late 90s, and I was still in love with Spider-Man the way that I was up until about 1997, 1998, this movie would be a straight up 10. if I was that big of a Spider-Man fan. Like I still am, but he's not the same. Marvel kind of ruined him for me. Um, this movie would be a straight up 10 out of 10. Right now, after seeing it the first time, I'd probably give it like an 8. Not, and besides the score, forget my score. That's super subjective. If you just want to know, should I go see this movie? Yes. Yes. If you've been watching any of the comic book movies the last 9 or 10 years, yes. If you like any of the original Spider-Man movies, yes. If you're a kid and you like yes. If you like good movies, yes. Go see it. Now we'll be getting into our spoiler territory. Maybe I'll put a graphic here. Let's see how that works out. Spoiler territory. You've been warned. I'll give you about 5 seconds. Skip ahead into the video. I'm not even really sure when. Maybe I'll mark it someplace on here. To the wrap up of this video. But we'll be starting out the spoilers in 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, spoilers. So where do we even begin? The thing with this movie is right now I'm keeping a chart, a timeline of the correct viewing order, regardless of the movie's release date in the MCU. And this includes the TV shows, the comics, and anyway, it's a project I'm working on. I'll get around to making that video. I think that's going to be my big video. I just want to make sure I get it right. And I'm kind of waiting for more movies to come out because, as you'll see right here with Spider-Man Homecoming, movies pretty much were chronological going up to, I don't know, I'd probably say Guardians of the Galaxy, the first Guardians of the Galaxy. And then after that, it started skipping around and movies started to like overlap somewhat. Spider-Man Homecoming overlaps with several movies. Since this is spoilers, and since you're here, Spider-Man Homecoming overlaps with the very end of the Avengers, with the Chitauri Invasion, and then it overlaps again with toward the end of Age of Ultron because they're moving all the stuff out of Avenger Tower after Ultron goes nuts and wrecks the place. And then at the end of the movie, they just moved into the Avengers compound in upstate New York. So this movie spans that entire time frame. It might even overlap a little bit with Ant-Man when he goes there. But in my chronological order, I have it after... I can't remember. But you have to watch the movie and check that out. Watch the video when I do make that and check that out. Honestly, I don't really feel like getting into too much spoilers because just go see the movie. It's great. I did like some of the twists and some of the liberties that they took. I did like how the Vulture turned out to be Liz Allen's dad. That was pretty cool. They've never really done that in the comics as far as I know, and that was an interesting twist. Kept a long time Spider-Man reader like myself on my toes. And I don't really mind when they change things up like that. If it's done to service the story, if it's done to show you something good. Because you know what, people, you got to realize these are comic books. And there's a million different versions of Spider-Man in the comic books. There's the Spider-Verse. There's a million different versions of Captain America. There's the multiverse and all the what if comics. So you have to look at the movies the same way. And these movies do exist within that multiverse. So this is just an alternate version. So I thought that was a cool twist. The Vulture being Liz Allen's dad. It led up to like probably the best scene in the movie when they're in the car and he's driving him, Peter and Liz to Homecoming. And you can see him doing the calculations in his head as Liz is talking about Peter, kind of trying to brag him up. And the Vulture is kind of trying to he's making these connections in his head like, oh, I know who you are. You're Spider-Man. I thought the voice sounded familiar. And it's good to see a villain not be a dummy and put that together. That was pretty cool. Ned Leeds being his best friend, that was cool. Ned's was kind of like a big mouth warrior, like over the top kind of character, but it's fine. He was totally charming. Did a great job. The big twist at the end. Spoilers. The big twist at the end with Aunt May. Peter getting his suit back and Aunt May finding out. That's how the movie ends. Aunt May finds out that he's Spider-Man. Which is pretty cool because the Spider-Man I grew up with, he was always trying to keep a secret from Aunt May. He was lying to Aunt May for like 50 years. And then in the 90s. And actually, I thought that was kind of cool because I liked the idea that he had a secret to keep because I was a little kid and there was stuff I didn't want to tell the grown-ups that had happened or stuff that I did. So I kind of liked that idea that he had something to hide from the grown-ups. But also at the same time, I was like, Spider-Man, you'd be so much more free and you'd be so not worrying about so much less stuff if if your family and friends knew what you were doing. At least that way, you wouldn't have to worry about them finding out and blah blah blah. And you've almost been killed like 80,000 times. Like after that, you'd have to tell somebody, right? But in the 90s, Aunt May does find out. And I didn't really read it too much past it because that was right around the time or right before, right after the whole Clone Wars thing. And I was just like, I was so pissed off at Marvel. And I didn't like what they were doing with Spider-Man after that. And they kind of like threw me for a loop. But anyway, that's a whole other video, the Clone Saga. Sal over at Comic Pop has a really good video about it. As was Rob over at Comix Explained. So if you want to know more about the Clone Saga, go check out those guys' channels. Tell them I sent you. But I kind of like the twists and turns that it took, and I like how we could just get right into Spider-Man because everybody knows the story of Spider-Man, and I think that's what they're doing with these original Marvel movies. People are always like, "Oh, the villains are so weak, and it's always so cheesy," and what? This is to set the ground rules, people, for Marvel movies, Marvel Studio movies. This way, when they move into Phase 4, they can just go right into stories. They don't have to explain to you who Captain America is and what he stands for. They don't have to explain to you who the Hulk is and what he stands for. They don't have to explain to you who Thor is and or whatever new characters they're going to have. Doctor Strange, they don't have to explain to you who and what Doctor Strange is. That's why his movie was so basic. It was just like, here's Stephen Strange, here's his journey, here's more or less what he can do. Okay, he wins. That was so when you see him pop up in Infinity War and the next couple movies, you have a general idea of who he is. And that's what Kevin Feige keeps saying, but when Phase 4 rolls around, we're going to be seeing something totally different. And that's because they won't have to explain as much, and they can just go right into the meat of stories. And that's what they do here in Spider-Man. They don't have to explain who Spider-Man is. They don't have to talk about Uncle Ben. They do mention the spider, because, the part when Ned finds out, and the next day they're talking about it at school. And he's explaining to him, and Ned's asking him, so did the spider bite hurt? So we know what happened there. So they could just jump right into the meat of the character and just give you a compelling story. And I really did like that. The direction was great. It reminded me a lot of like something like Napoleon Dynamite for some reason in a lot of places. The action was very well directed. Spider-Man was awesome. Michael Keaton as the Vulture. As Michael Keaton himself, he was amazing. As the Vulture, he was amazing. That was a great villain. He's got to be top 5 MCU villain right now. He was actually menacing, actually dangerous. And how they tied him into other things. And the introduction of Damage Control. They introduced Damage Control in this movie, which is a long-rumored MCU TV show. It's supposed to be on ABC like 2 seasons ago. Maybe they were holding off for a way to launch it in the movies first. And then introduce it to TV. Are they still going to do a Damage Control TV show? Check the hotline, check this channel to see if they end up announcing that. There's a lot of other stuff. Maybe I'll get more into it into another review, but let me know in the comments what you guys thought. If you're going to talk spoilers, be sure to use a spoiler tag. Don't forget to like and subscribe if you dug this video. Hit me up on Facebook at Thangs Betwixt is my general portal for this and for my video gaming channel. I kind of like put them together on Facebook. Hit me up on, hit me up on Twitter if that's your thing. It's at Midlife Comics. And check out my podcast, Evil Petting Zoo. Find our page on Facebook and hit us up on Twitter as well if you want to keep with that. And we cover comic book movies. We'll most definitely be doing a review for this movie on Monday. That's when our podcast usually is recorded. So yeah, definitely go see it. Definitely recommend it. Great movie. MCU does it again. On to the next one, which is going to be, if you count TV, which you should, will be The Defenders. That'll be September 1st? October 1st? August 1st. There'll be Defenders on Netflix. No, August 18th will be The Defenders on Netflix. And then after that, we'll have The Inhumans on September 1st in IMAX. And then the 26th of September will be their series. So yeah, you guys take care. I definitely did enjoy the movie. You go enjoy the movie. There's some scenes in it. They do use some language, so if you're not really accustomed, don't want to introduce your kids to some spicy language or like maybe a middle finger or something like that, you might want to think about it. But it's a great movie for all, pretty much. If you have a very impressionable, very younger child, maybe not. Maybe you want to hold off a little bit because you know how Spidey cursed in Civil War. He lets a few slip in this one. There's some suggestive things in this one. But go see it. Thanks for watching. There's a lot of these reviews on the internet. Thank you for watching and sticking around to the very end of this one. I really appreciate it. Yeah, like I said, hit me up on Facebook. Um, try to do this for a living, y'all. Hit me up on Patreon. I'll shill. But yeah, take care. I've rambled on long enough.